welcome to episode 12. And this is definitely very healthy of me, but I'm procrastinating all the schoolwork I have to do for the weekend because I don't want to face the fact that I might be going back to school and it's going to be half and half at school again. And oh, the mental stability. It's the stability for me. It's the consistency for me. It's the it's the rigidity and continuity for me. Regarding the government, of course. Um, anyway, I just heard that recently. That's why I'm just, I don't know if I'm ready for this whole thing right now. So I have basically so many topics that I just wrote down randomly that I still have from the overflow. And I thought I was going to do that in the last episode, but the last episode turned out to be the whole thing just about, what's it called? Just about the tea, apparently. I didn't know that there's so much tea because I summarized to my best ability, I think. Very simple, in very simple terms, whatever happens. And, you know, it happens like that. It just happens. So this is gonna be very disorganized, probably another rant, but I'm gonna call it something else. I'm gonna call it like something iconic I say during this whole thing, kind of like when I had my guests. Like I'll title it something from the podcast episode. So what I wanted to start on, well, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I'm like, what is something light that we can start on? Because I don't want to, like, talk about stuff that's super heavy and, depressing. So, something that I've learned very recently, gambling isn't illegal. Like, maybe that was obvious to you guys, but to me, I just always thought that it was illegal. I was like, well, yeah, duh. But then, we were talking about it today, and my parents and my brother were like, no. And they brought up the fact that, like, the lottery is gambling. And I was like, wait, but, like, the lottery doesn't count because it's, like, sponsored by the government. It's like daddy government gives you, like, a bit of money if you're lucky. And it basically makes them money, right? So I never considered that gambling. But now that I think about it, like, duh, it's obvious gambling because you're, like, taking it a chance. But I was like, hold on now. I thought that the reason why, like indigenous communities and like for example in Kanawake there's casinos, I thought that's because they had free reign over it. And to some extent, like, I did a bit of research, and to some extent, yes, they have like more freedom in the stuff that they can do, but so like outside of those reserves or reservations, there's more restrictions, and you have to be like very specific about like how you start it, and I think you have to contact the government, something like that. Like, there's definitely illegal ways to gamble. Like, if you're going to a place where it wasn't done on the books or whatever, that's wrong. But yeah, I was just shook. Like, I didn't know that this was knowledge that everybody had of like this type of thing. I completely surprised. Like, still kind of surprised. So yeah, that's the first thing. I mean, of course, what I mean by not too heavy, like, obviously this is a serious topic, but it's just that it's not, it's not necessarily affecting me. I'm not a gambling addict or anything. And yeah, it was just something that I guess, because I think it's like the Mandela effect where, like, you just assume something is some way without ever any confirming you. But like when you look at it again, you're like, oh, hold on. I thought it was like this. Because once you never point it out, right? It's not a topic that's that common. Just like, what conversation with a teenager do you think you'll be talking about gambling, right? Anyway, so that's something I learned. If you learned it now, I'll feel a little less dumb for not knowing. So yeah, I saw this. The next topic is a bit more serious, but it's like not serious for me. I've been seeing like promotion of cheating on your spouse in the media, which, like, there was this article written by, I would definitely call her a Bertha, or maybe like a Geraldine, not a Karen, a bit older than a Karen, like a Geraldine probably. And literally she was like, having an affair was the best thing that ever happened in my marriage. I was like, whoa. Okay, so we're just like releasing articles promoting um cheating on your spouse. Like, wow. That is, I cannot believe that somebody literally, I mean, even if you're in an open relationship, there's always rules, right? There's always something considered cheating. You always, like, for some relationships, it's like, you always have to tell me or something. But most relationships are monogamous, right? So when you're in a monogamous relationship and you literally, like, you promote cheating, you're not ashamed of yourself for, like, betraying the trust of your partner for, you made a vow also because you were married to this person. You literally made a vow to, like, to love and to hold, to cherish for the till the day you die, which nowadays, it's not really till the day you die, till the day you sign the the divorce papers, but whatever. You could have divorced the guy before you cheat. Like, then it wouldn't have been cheating. What is the point of hurting? Oh, also, there have been, like, not a lot, a couple of studies on the fact that, like, people who have been cheated on have, like, similar responses to people who have had physical trauma done to them. So I'm just like, okay, so you brought that upon this person just because you're not, like, you're not happy in your relationship anymore, doesn't give you the right to, like, literally inflict trauma on them. Um, just because you felt like it, like, just girly things, just cute things, like, very, very questionable behavior. And this was on a big thing. I think it was like, oh, I can't remember, man. But it was Hunter Avalon reviewing the this article, and I mean, I don't really like him necessarily. That's neither here nor there, though. It's just that he brought it up in a video, and I was like, oh, huh, interesting. And then I saw this. There was this game. Well, it's kind of like episode, but I saw an ad for it. It's it's all the same, right? It's like a story, choose your own story, but it's not really. It's just like whatever. And it was literally like the synopsis in the ad was like, oh, you meet this neighbor you have who you're married to this man, and he is in a relationship with his girlfriend, and you decide to have an affair because your partners are horrible. And I was like, I mean, just because you don't like your partner doesn't give you the right to start cheating on them. Like, where is the logic coming from? You divorce, you break up, you do anything. Oh, sorry. You do anything before you do that. Like, and they're, like, saying it as if it's a good thing because, well, at least because my partner is so bad, then I give myself the right to cheat on them because you're getting even, which what is the logic? And these are adults. Oh, I mean, this is not really related, but Jubilee, the adults episode of, like, Who Gets $1,000, grossed me out. Like, their behavior was disgusting. And I mean, you should watch the review PewDiePie did with Cinnamon Toast Ken, because it was really funny. Because the teenagers one, even the teenagers were more. Well, there was millennials, teenagers, and there was seniors. I think the seniors were the worst. The second worst were the adults, and the best were the teenagers. Which I don't know what that says about society, man. Anyway, if you've seen the adult episode on Jubilee, I think they have more dislikes than likes. It's hilarious. Because everybody hated that video. It was like, oh my goodness, how could you hire such an unlikable set of people? Like, so unlikable. And usually the people who are promoting charities always get voted off first. Like, and then there was this girl who, oh my gosh, she needed, I think she wanted to start a business or something. And they're like, well, we could get you a mentor. Like, what is that reasoning? Hello? What? And then in the millennials episode, the youngest one, she was like, oh, well, I kind of need the $1,000 because I bailed out my parents from jail the other day for $10,000, and $10,000 was supposed to go to my daughter's college fund. So I thought she was the most valid, but she was like the second person to get eliminated, and she was literally crying on the bench on the side, and then she left for a while. But when she was crying, I mean, it might have been how they edited it, but, like, one of the guys was like, oh, you're crying again? Like, that is disgusting. Like, how could you even say that to somebody? She was hurt because they were, like, hating on her, and I mean, she was the youngest out of all of them, so, it was obviously intimidating, but how could you justify And in the millennials episode, there's this iconic quote from this this lady, this girl. She was like, I'm a good person. I donate to charity or something. I was like, oh no. Oh man. It's I mean, you got to see it to know it. It's just truly a sight to see. 1,000 to 1. That's the series, and it's on Jubilee. And oh my goodness, is it just something? It's something else. That's the only way I can describe it. So, um, I went off. Back to the whole like cheating on your spouse thing or just your partner. I think it really depends on the situation, but usually, no, you should never cheat. I mean, if somebody were to cheat on you, that's what I mean. I think it's very complicated because it's like, I mean, I've never been in that situation, and I really don't really know anything about relationships. I've never been in one, and I'm also like 15, so like, what do I know? But I feel like it's much more complicated if you're like married / have children, because then you're like quite committed, and so it's like, but then it's like, should you just forgive them? I guess it depends on the situation, right? How much have they cheated, right? I don't know. That's my thing. So next up, or first real topic is what's it called? A vocabulary word. So our first vocabulary word that we actually have 2 today. Very fun because we want to catch up on the whole thingy. So the first one is called hoosgow, and well, I'm not going to put up the definition because it's literally just one thing. It's an informal word informal in North America to describe a prison, just jail, basically. Hoosgow. Hoosgow. Yeah, hoosgow. And it's spelled Hoosegоw, which you'd think that it's a word that you know, but it's not, because it's not goose, it's hoosgow. I feel like it's so familiar for some reason, though. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting. Hoosgow is slang for the prison, jail, whatever you want to call it. Interesting, huh? That's why I had like a second word prepped, because I was like, probably should prep another word just in case. So yeah, the second word is diffident, and the definition in the dictionary is modest or shy because of lack of self-confidence. And this really relates to the episode 10, because it was like lack of self-confidence and modest or shy. Well, I'm not really modest or shy, but I was like, I feel like that's our whole generation. Anyway, just cutesy things, I thought I'd tell you guys a nice little anecdote from the orthodontist the other day, which, I mean, honestly made me audibly laugh, which is something that hasn't happened in a while when, well, although on Wednesdays I feel so giggly. I feel like it's just because I'm around so many people and I'm like so happy, so I'll laugh at literally anything, which, weird, huh? Like in real life, I'll never laugh at anything, but then on Wednesday, suddenly, all the giggles come out. Everything is suddenly 10 times funny. Like something that isn't even funny is outrageously funny. Like hilarious. You're killing me here. And so, yeah. That's totally not related to this, but anyway. So I went to the orthodontist the other day, a couple of weeks ago actually, and I don't even know why I blurted this out, but I was seeing the doctor, because we have like an orthodontist, but then we have the doctor orthodontist, because I guess he's a echelon higher than the other ones. And basically he's just like the guy that like says, okay, you have to do this for her like continuing or whatever. So he's the one that like gives directives, and the orthodontist will like do the thing. And so yeah, he was just looking at my teeth, and then the orthodontist was like, oh my gosh. After much deliberation, I've decided to just blur out the name. To mute out the name. So we're just gonna go with Chris. We'll call them the kid. We'll call him Clock. So Clock is this kid that, well, I never watched him specifically. I usually in Sparks I would watch his little brother. But yeah, anyway, Clock is this kid from Awana, and basically I was like, I don't even know why. The orthodontist was like, "Oh, Clock is waiting in the hallway," and the doctor was like, "Okay, let him in. He needs to get seated in seat whatever." And I was like, "Oh, I know Clock. I know that guy." And I don't. Why did I say that? Like, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Much embarrassment. And so then the doctor was like, "Oh, really? From how do you know him?" And I was like, "Oh, Clock. I know him from church," which is just like it's easier to explain than like after church program at church, blah blah, whatever. And he was like, "Oh, really? Interesting." Because I think, yeah, he probably thought that I was Jewish because the doctor is Jewish and he has a daughter whose name is also Hannah. So it's like, you know. Anyway, a lot of people go to this doctor actually. Well, he's retiring soon, but um yeah, now that I think about it, a lot of the people I know like that have braces go to him. Not all, but a lot of them. Anyway, so then Clock comes in, right? And oh man, it's so awkward because the orthodontist is basically opening up my mouth, like putting a bunch of wires in my mouth and like suction. Super attractive, by the way, like super nice look, very cute. And so Clock sits down, and the doctor's with him, and the doctor's like, "Oh, do you know Hannah over there?" And I was like, "Oh, bruh." So look at me, like with mouth open, with a bunch of stuff in my, with a bunch of stuff that the orthodontist is like putting in my mouth. I just throw him a peace sign, and Clock's like, "Yeah." Um, honestly, didn't think that he would recognize me because I'm like, haven't been there in a while. But what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, so that was like quite the awkward encounter in my opinion because um, and then the orthodontist was like, because I guess she didn't hear what I told the doctor, and so the orthodontist was like, "Oh, um, is he in your class?" When I tell you, I started laughing so hard. She was definitely caught off guard because I guess I just, in my mind, that is like the funniest thing ever. Because let me think. This kid is probably in sec 1, so it's like at least a 3-year age gap, and I'm like, you really think I'm in sec 1 or that he's in sec 4? Anyway, pretty funny stuff. It literally has no relevance, but I thought that it would be pretty funny to mention because, um, uh, it just shows how awkward I am, and literally, this is the reason why I don't say hi to people. Why did I have to say that I knew the kid when the kid was literally gonna come in? Big brain, like huge brain on that, huge brain energy on that one. Um, don't know how I got the idea that that was a good idea. Anyway, so that was the orthodontist. um, I wanted to talk about I've been hinting at it. I guess I don't really want to say what happened because there's a chance that they might hear this. So last time we referred to the friends as like with letters. Let's refer to them with actual names. I think Clock was much easier to follow than like ABCD. So, we'll call this friend. What's an object near me? Seed. So this friend's name is Seed. Okay. I would love giving them not real names, like just objects, because that's pretty funny. Anyway, so Seed and I were like friends for a while, and I think basically what happened was that I mean, I just something happened, and I'm not sure if I want to stay friends with Seed anymore because there's like two sides of me. I'm like, well, am I just being petty because I'm not really happy, or do I think that I deserve better as friend? But like, maybe that, like, am I just lying to myself that we had fun times, or did they really happen? So now it's just like a war in my mind, and at some point I'm gonna see Seed again in real life. But now that we're going half and half, the chances are much less now. That's at least the good thing. And basically, I'm just not sure what to do because I told Seed I needed space, and I'm not sure. Like, I haven't been able to really determine because it's just like everything in my life. I'm just torn. a lot of people are telling me, well, some people are telling me, if you enjoyed your time together, then you don't have to stop being friends. And then other people are like, well, you deserve better than like how they treated you. And so I don't know, man. I'm not totally sure what to do with Seed. Anyway, so in the time that well, actually, Seed tried ended being friends with me, and during that time, I kind of had this post Seed clarity, let's call it that, and I realized love is blind. Like, I mean, whoa, you're preaching to the choir here, Anna. But what I mean is, even platonic love, I thought it was like love is blind. Like when you're falling in love with somebody, you just can't tell the red flags. But I guess for friendship too, at least for me, I realized that in healthy relationships, you're able to point out the things that you don't like, and you don't silence yourself from like realizing these things, right? Like, because with my what I would say with my real friends, whatever that's supposed to mean, when something bothers me, it still takes me a bit of time to work up the courage, but I'm able to tell them that like something bothered me, something that they said or whatever, and I acknowledge it. Instead, I think with Seed, I just pushed it down, which is not their fault at all, because you know it's my fault for not speaking up when I thought I felt something was off, or I didn't like that they said something. I was just like, oh well, you're being a wimp, and just like deal with it, whatever. And again, none of this is their fault. It just that's why I'm like thinking now. I'm just like, did I lie to myself? Was it all a delusion? Like, um, just a regular 7 a.m. day, just a regular Wednesday, and basically, what I mean is, even platonically, it's sometimes you with people you care about, it's just you might not be able to tell some things just because you're just like, I mean, I don't know. That's all I wanted to say about that. Well, that's not all, but for that was, and then it was like, um, I was able to see through like the whole love is blind, even platonically type thing. Why certain people will defend their friends blindly, right, without reason, when they could just back away, right, and it helped me realize like when you're friends with somebody, you're not able to see their flaws, even if they're pointed out. It's like it doesn't really process, right? Sometimes for some people, it's easier for them to realize, oh, that's not right, and yeah, not that you shouldn't stand by your friends. What I mean is like you have to be able to recognize that somebody did something wrong, and if you still decide to be friends with them, then you have to say, um, what was the guy that after Duplessis, his whole campaign was? Oh yeah, after Duplessis, there was this guy that that died after 112 days as prime minister. But after Duplessis, his campaign slogan was "Désormais," which is in French it means what does it mean? How would I translate it? It's like and so. Well, not really. Ah, man, I'm bad at this. Hold on, I'm gonna Google Trans. Henceforth is désormais. They're synonyms. Synonyms. And yeah, so that's interesting. Um, and for a while when I was angry, I'm not really angry. I'm kind of removed. Well, I'm not totally removed, I would say, but I'm 75% there. I'll say I still haven't come to a conclusion though, a decision. I mean, for how to go on, but I'm 75% removed, I would say, and so it made me think of the Tyler the Creator meme where I was like, so that was an explicit lie, and yeah, I was like, well, was any of it real? Was it all in my mind? Were we not really friends? Because because of being kicked out of friend groups in the past, I guess I've just developed this like trust issue problem where I'm like, am I crazy? Like, I mean, if this many people don't want to be friends with me, then there has to be something wrong with me, which, I mean, obviously there's like many things wrong with me, but it's like, a lot of the time I feel like I'm right and I'm not the person at fault, but when there's this many people who don't want to be friends with you, sometimes it's time to get off your high horse and realize like there's definitely something going wrong in my mind, that I'm doing wrong, what I mean. And then the other part was like with the whole seed situation, I was like, well, am I a bad judge of character? Because um how did I not see this? How was I not able to tell? Was I just so like going to James Charles right here? Was I just so desperate to make friends that I did this? Which I wouldn't say I'm desperate to make friends. I just thought that it was fun to like be friends with Sita. Um, and I was like, oh well, somebody wants to talk to me. That's cool. That's not like people that I was already friends with, right? Um, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that now I suddenly feel more trust issues coming along. Yay, cute, very fun stuff. And yeah, am I mean, it sounds so cringy to say, but like am I too open, too accepting, and should I should I care about people less? I know that's so ugh to say, but maybe sometimes I need to see and be clear about my boundaries better. Anyway, another question I was asking myself is, am I like clinging to the good times, or were they really that good? Like, um, because I remember there were certain instances where I remembered, like I know I'm so weird. I reread some of our messages between me and Seed, and basically I was like, oh my gosh, but Seed said that, and I remember it kind of hurting, but I just ignored it. I guess I just moved on with my life, and that's not really processing it because I mean, ignoring it is not the same as dealing with it. But I guess I never thought about it again. So, co- healthy coping mechanisms, am I right? Anyway, so there's like a couple of things where I was like, oh, I guess that did affect me. But like I said in the episode 10, um, now I have this unhealthy thinking that like anything affecting me is wrong. So instead of dealing with it and letting myself feel whatever I might feel about something, I'll just ignore it and say, "Oh, it doesn't bother me. I don't care." When I mean that's ridiculous. Of course, no matter how hard you try, you'll always care because we're human. We're only human. So we're only so great, right? Um, I mean that sarcastically. We're not really that great. And so yeah, there's this I also had this mentality where I was like, no one is gonna make me cry but me. um which wow, you know, I cannot believe that's what I mean by like in many ways I feel like I have regressed and progressed in the same way. I might be more likable than before, but on the inside I'm not doing good. When I used to be, well, not happy, just like, well, yes, happy, but I mean, in a way that I just wasn't bothered necessarily by anything really. If you saw me, I used to just post whatever. It's quite embarrassing looking back at it now, but I had no shame to just do whatever. And I realized with like, I already mentioned this, but with Seed, I wasn't properly setting boundaries because I was like, well, I want Seed to know that I will always be there for them. Whatever they have to ask me, whatever they can say it, and when really there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries, um, because sometimes there's things that you just don't want to talk about to each other, and I don't think that me thinking that there's nothing wrong with that versus me doing is like a whole. It's like, you say something, you think something for somebody else, but when it comes to yourself, it's just so much harder, so much harder to connect the dots, even though it's your own thinking. Um, you know, very cute, very fun, and basically my dilemma is like, do I forgive Seed and move on? And well, obviously, I will always forgive them because that's like the way to you. It's the only way to properly like holding a grudge is so much heavier, and it's not good morally either as a Christian or whatever. um what was it again? I wanted to say something about like holding a grudge. Oh right, so basically holding a grudge is letting the person live in your head rent free, right? Why would you let anybody live in your head rent free when there's just so many things in the world, right? You don't need that toxicity in your life. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to myself, but yeah, so I'm like, should I just move on without Seed? But then I'm gonna see them around, and so that's super awkward. And I don't want to make my friends choose a side necessarily, and that could get ugly, kind of. And then I don't really know because we kind of have a similar friend group. We're in a extended friend group is the same, and so that's really awkward. I don't know what I'm gonna say to them if I see them again and I'm not friends with them anymore. But then I'm like, maybe I should stay friends with them because, um, but then there's so many people that are like, oh, but don't stay friends with them, and so it's like, were they really that toxic, or am I just convincing myself? Am I being too sensitive for being hurt by something that wasn't even that serious? Like they were saying it, Seed was saying something out of anger, and I just, every it's like every relationship, whether platonic or romantic, will always have fights. Like you can't just not fight ever or not have little tiffs over the years, especially if you're living with someone. Not I'm not living with Seed, by the way. It's like Seed is just my brother. It's literally my brother. I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to be friends with my brother anymore. Um, anyway, a comparison is like I was with Cameron at camp for 2 weeks in Sec 1 summer, and I love Cameron, truly, but those 2 weeks made me so. I was so annoyed constantly. So, can't wait to be married, I guess. Imagine being able to deal with me, especially. Oh my gosh. Me imagining to deal with myself. Oh, so annoying. So, like, ugh. Um, anyway, what did I want to say? So, yeah, I'm like, maybe I should start slow, but I don't know how that works because I also didn't even wasn't I was ready to like fully break it off, like fully stop being friends with Seed. But then I was like, oh no, I can't do that because I know how it feels. I've been like, people have cut me out of their lives more times than I can count, honestly. Well, I can count, but I don't want to. It would probably hurt my feelings more, and it's like I know how that feels. It definitely like the rejection hurts really hard, and it's always what did I do, right? How could I have done differently, and what makes me so flawed that they don't want to associate with me at all? And that's not what I did with Seed. So, but I know that the limbo definitely would feel weird for him, and so I'm like, oh man, what do I do, man? What do I do? How do I feel? Because I honestly, I don't know how I feel. I asked people what I should do, and now I'm more confused than ever because um, the more time passes, the less sure I am of anything. And obviously, gut instinct isn't always the right thing to go with because sometimes you don't know everything. Going off of your emotions is not the smartest. But then, obviously, your emotions are telling you something true. So, I don't know. I really not totally sure right now. Anyway, I had I'll talk about this in the childhood episodes, but in the past I have ended a friendship once in 6th grade a long time ago, and that was before I was kicked out of a bunch of friend groups. And when I ended that friendship with a certain person, it was, well, it was kind of that I felt like I had to because seems like that person hadn't gotten the idea that I wasn't totally into being like best friends or whatever, and not that I had ever seen them as a best friend, but they called me their best friend, and so yeah, and ever since then I had been kicked out of multiple friend groups, and what happened, and basically I had Seed had wanted to not stop being friends, and then after had changed their mind. But I had basically never, not even thought of ending my friendship with Seed because I thought that there was nothing wrong. When in fact they had been very angry at me until the point that they said that we couldn't be friends anymore. I hadn't even thought that that's what they meant. It hadn't even crossed my mind. And the idea of not being friends with them was like, I guess I developed some kind of friend dependency on everybody that I'm friends with. Like wish that they would stay friends with me forever, which is quite childish and foolish. But that's truly how I feel, I guess, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have real dependency issues. I guess that's why I just brushed myself off for feeling anything negative about that person, um, because I so desperately wanted it to work, right? Being like James Charles, like, well, I'm not a predator, so anyway, I definitely really wanted to be friends with this person, and I thought, they listen to me rant about whatever, and they're not like complaining about it or whatever, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I just I think lines were crossed that we never realized we had. And so it's complicated. I feel like a jerk to not continue the friendship, because they did apologize, because Seed did apologize. But then again, accepting an apology versus letting that person back in your life is two different things. And I don't know. I used to think that, like, ending friendships after the fact that I ended a friendship, after when I was kicked out of friendships, I thought it was like cowardice because you're running away and you're not talking about your problems and you're like, but I realized that sometimes it's a culmination. Like, you don't realize, but I'll still say that the way that my friendship groups ended was very toxic. Like, they never told me anything, which, why let animosity grow? Just say it then and there, express it, and if that's how you feel, it can be amicable, definitely more amicable than how it ended before. I tried being the most respectful I could for with Seed and whatever. It wasn't like an end, but it was more like I told Seed I needed space to think and time to think, and yeah, so. But why would it be cowardice, right? You're just cutting somebody toxic from your life, or that you would consider toxic. I think I just didn't like the idea that I was considered toxic in somebody's life. I didn't like the idea that somebody didn't want me in their life, because they thought they would be better off without me, which, again, identity. Where do you root your identity from? From why people don't want you in your life? Like, not every single person, not every single pair of people can be compatible together. And being friends is a commitment. Like, it is a lot of work, not as much as a relationship, I guess, but being friends is definitely, like, it's not nothing. And so being cordial is much less work. Being cordial acquaintances, I mean. Anyway, I wish that also for the whole Seed situation, I wish that they were more straight up by how they feel and that type of thing. But I guess it wouldn't have really changed much, I guess. Anyway, that's it for that one. So this is generally overflow from the last episode. I wanted to keep the family channels to this episode because that's a fun time, a cute time. Basically, what the issue is that there are too many family channels to count, but these are the most controversial. So it's 8 passengers, the Ace family, and Micah Stauffer, or the Stauffers. Anyway, and there's also the Shaytards, because they had like a whole debacle type thing. So let's start with 8 passengers. As in the name of the channel, there's 8 people in the family. Very cool. It's easy. And the parents and 6 children. So yeah, that's basically it. And they started the channel, I don't really know. But basically there's a lot of problematic things that the mother films. So she has past videos of like going bra shopping with a 13-year-old child, and then like talking about periods, like in front of the camera, literally, and a bunch of stuff like that. Which, how did you think that was appropriate? Do you not think that your kids will be bullied for that? And later the kids will like say, yeah, I have no friends because I get bullied at school, I get bullied online, and I get berated at home because my mom is always filming me doing embarrassing stuff and just keeping it in vlog, as if that's not damaging, right? So yeah, And that's not even the worst of it. That's just the beginning. That's just the tip of the iceberg on this character, because the dad is kind of involved in the vlogs, but it's really the mom that films. Which, first of all, helicopter parent. Like, why would you film so many private moments? Like, do you not realize how embarrassing that is to your children? And now they're getting bullied. They have no friends. It's just like, oh my gosh. And this mom thinks that she's a good parent. Literally, they went on a Instagram rant on stories, and they were like, they're like criticizing, the haters are hating on us for how we parent our children. I was like, no, they're not haters. They're actually concerned for the safety of your children. So maybe correct yourself next time. Maybe look at the criticism before you put such harsh judgment. Also, again, bad Christian representation. Apparently, oh no, not them, but the Ace family is like apparently Christian, which, oh my goodness, how can there be so many people who call themselves Christian and like represent themselves this way? Anyway, that's like a whole other, I mean, we kind of have gone through it, but it's still like, it's contentious. Apparently, you're not supposed to like criticize other Christians when clearly they're making mistakes. Anyway, so like these 8 passengers, right? The big issue is there were videos circulating that the parents sent this kid to a camp where they didn't have bathrooms or beds. Well, they had bathrooms, but it was outside. Like, it was all in the wild. No phones. Not that they had phones before, because this mom was so, like, neurotic. She didn't give them phones until, like, they were complaining about it. And so they had, like, a flip phone for so long. And her oldest children were, like, almost 18, like 17, 15, 13 years old. And she literally didn't give them phones. She didn't give them phones until recently. Now they all have iPhones because of all the backlash, I'm guessing. And she's like, see, I gave them phones. Which, I mean, that's not really what's wrong with you, lady, but whatever. And the dad, obviously, because the dad is also an enabler, not stopping his wife from doing whatever. And he's just as complicit because, like, how can you prove this? How can you, like, think that this is fine? Anyway, so they sent this kid to a camp, not unsimilar to Bad Babies camp, and so they sent him to this camp, and they said, many something professionals have told us that this was a great choice for him. I was like, who told you that no bathrooms, no beds, basically just buck wild, like survival of the fittest type of thing was suitable for your first country, like what is it called? Oh my god, first world country child to live in? Like, who told you that? I'm just, oh my goodness. And then they have the audacity to do what? They hadn't given him a bed for 7 months when he came home after camp. And you know why he went to that camp? Because he pulled a prank on his kid brother. And it wasn't even that serious. He was just like, he woke him up at like 6 a.m. or something. He was like, we're going to Disneyland. And that was all. That was it. I mean, it's not very nice, but like, he's a kid with a brother. Like, what did you expect would happen? That he would be on his best behavior the whole time of his whole life, right? Anyway, so because he pulled that prank, he had to go to this camp, which is basically like, I mean, how do you even survive there, right? Because you don't have a bathroom. You have to pee and poop outside, which, man, I cannot understand. And then after that, they took away his bed for 7 months because of what? I forgot. It was something dumb again. And then for their 5-year-old child, a girl, she didn't have lunch. And the teacher called her, said, oh, hey, turns out your kid doesn't have lunch. Would you like to drop off some food? And she was like, no. What kind of mom are you to say no to feeding your child for lunch? It's literally the bare minimum, okay? And she was like, well, she didn't pack her lunch, so she's gonna have to live without eating it. And I hope nobody shares food with her. And you call yourself a mother? A loving mother? Look, I understand that if she didn't have a snack, then you wouldn't like go all the way to school to like pack her snack. But she didn't have anything to eat. Literally zero. She's a 5-year-old child. You think that she's able to remember every single day to pack her lunch? I mean, she's treating them like they're adults when they're children. Like, they're not going to be able to do everything perfectly at this stage in their life. They're not fully cognitive. Their cognitive ability hasn't fully, like, developed or whatever. So there's that. And then back to the guy who lost his bed for 7 months. He had to sleep on a beanbag every night. Can you imagine that? And they said, oh, well, he was allowed to go back whenever he was ready to admit to his fault, which I think any teenager would prefer, like, after 1 or 2 nights, be like, okay, fine, like, I'll go back to my bed, I'm sorry, I was wrong, or whatever. I don't believe that he, for 7 months, wouldn't say that he was wrong, because at this point, like, I think they're just lying about that. And what happened after that? I mean, there's countless other stuff, but anyway, they did a bunch of this, and only recently they got, like, iPhones, the kids, but still they're filming, like, pretty often. They're not, like, daily vlogging anymore, but still. It's just like, oh my gosh, you are so embarrassing. I cannot believe that you as parents thought that this was a good idea, especially the stuff that they were filming. It wasn't, like, it wasn't, like, innocent, singing songs as a family, or packing lunch for my child, as you should, or, going shopping for regular clothing, not bras. It's just like, oh my gosh. I just don't understand how this woman and her husband thought that this was a good idea, or it was fine. Like, how could they justify profiting off of their children's, like, embarrassment, getting bullied? Like, it's just, I cannot fathom that people like this are just out in the world, out and about. Next family is the Ace family, and they named it the Ace family because A for Austin, C for Catherine, the mom, Austin is the dad, and E for, can't remember their child's name, but now they have 3 children, so, they named it the Ace family at first because they only had 1 child at the time, but now they have 3, and basically, they exploit their children, but, like, this is a common theme in these family channels, right? And basically, they had this controversy where they were going to donate $100,000 at a charity basketball event, but they only donated $75,000, and they never clarified that well, I mean, for somebody who's that rich, and people were calculating how much money they made, right? And they made around 500 to 600K. Even if it cost a certain amount of money to rent the gym, I don't think it cost you 425K, let's be honest. It was supposed to be a charity basketball game. And even if you kept some money, I think that it would be ethical to show that you kept some money. And you said that you would pay $100,000 to the charity, and clearly you ain't lacking money, let's be honest. So why'd you put it at 75K? And then there was another charity basketball game, because obviously that helps, like, where it was supposed to be, like, just some of their subscribers, fans, could go, and that's how they promoted it. But then you look at it, and it's all celebrities, so it's like, okay, so they thought, your fans thought that they would have a chance to play the basketball game, but then you just bamboozled them, right? What else is there? I mean, they have there's a lot of cheating rumors, and according to Lauren Gray, well, she never names that it was Austin from the Ace family, but she says, oh, he's this guy who's married and has, like, a family, is pretty famous on YouTube for his family, and, people are just assuming that it's Austin because he's had other cheating rumors, scandals, more. And she basically talked about how he asked her how old she was. Now, weird, just off the bat, because, I mean, I think she's just turned 18 or 19, and he's, like, what, 30-something? Oh, no, he's not 30-something. He's, like, almost 30. And so it's, like, it's kind of weird. Kind of gross. Also, obviously, cheating. But then Catherine, his wife, is always defending him, saying, no, he's never cheated. And it's, like, okay. She, like, it's just not believable, man. There's a lot of correlating evidence, and there's videos of certain things happening. Um, Not that they're proven, allegedly, but, whatever. And then what else is there? Oh, yeah. Basically, recently they've been deflecting on stuff for real. Like whenever there's a scandal, they'll just do something to deflect the attention, and so things people have been criticizing them again recently, and I forgot what they're doing. Oh yeah, they're doing that like Bryce Hall like TikTok versus YouTube fights. And Bryce Hall was promised $5 million to fight Austin from the Ace family or whatever. I mean, I really could not care less, especially like, oh my gosh. And it makes sense that Bryce Hall didn't want to fight him, which, I mean, whatever, but I don't like either of them, actually. Like, neither of them are very that cool because Bryce Hall allegedly cheated on his girlfriend, so, takes one to fight one, I guess. And he's just always trying to instigate violence for no reason. Just with other TikTokers, he's like, you want to go right now in the street? Don't be a wuss. Don't be a coward. It's like, yeah, okay. Okay. And, anyway, so then they're doing this fight because he's recently getting, like, Ace family is going under fire because of Austin, basically. That's the conclusion. And so they have this TikTok versus YouTube, YouTubers fight going on. And $5 million is a lot. I mean, is it worth it? I mean, probably, especially because he could just get like reconstructive surgery if he ever gets his face messed up that badly. Anywho, so they're deflecting from what? All the things that I mentioned, and sorry, I just burped. And the fact that it wasn't even that recently. It was just resurfaced. Well, how do I describe this ball without well, how would I describe this? Basically, Austin filmed his niece, like it wasn't his child, but it was his niece who they were at an explicit store, a store where they sell things for explicit activities. And basically, like, why would you bring a child there, first of all? And then she wanted this lollipop that looked quite a lot like what would I call it? Spray bottle. No. Let's just go with the good old eggplant. Okay, it looks like an eggplant, and it's just a lollipop. She wanted the lollipop because she liked sugar. Like, she's a kid, whatever. And then he films her like wanting this, and then he gets it for her. Okay, so why couldn't you just tell her, no, we don't it's like the lollipop is gone bad, we can get another one, or whatever. Like, it could be anything, right? But he got it for her, and his justification in the video was, oh, she kept on insisting on getting it. It was like, really? You couldn't convince a toddler that, like, to get a different lollipop? Because I'm pretty sure their attention span is very short, and as soon as you gave them something different that's like the same thing, but they would like not care. Like, they just want the candy. So that's definitely exploitative. Anyway. And then the next family is, I mean, all of these families are the worst, but if I had to rank them, I would say Micah goes at the top. Micah Stauffer is a woman. Yes. She has a family channel that's called The Stauffers or something, and her husband has a channel too, which her husband hasn't gotten that much flack because I guess she films all the videos. Yeah, it goes The Stauffers, the 8 Passengers, and then the Ace family, but like they're all like not great. Do not support, please. Not that like you guys are really the target audience. The target audience are like very young children and pedophiles, but whatever. So then Micah Stauffer, basically a couple years ago, she filmed so much content around like adopting a child. They adopted this kid from China, and I mean, we'll just call him Kid, okay? Because I don't really want to involve the kids. It's not their fault at all. And so basically, there's this whole process of her adopting this kid, and they wanted to adopt specifically a special needs child because, oh yeah, and the Ace family are like, they call themselves Christians. and they like scam their fans and all this stuff. And Micah Stauffer also apparently is, their family is Christian. So, like I said, representation is interesting. It's the okay for me. It's the dot 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 okay. It's the less than 3 heart for me. So then basically, what happened? Um, yeah, so they adopted this kid, and he's a special needs child. I think he's like on the spectrum, and so the autism spectrum, and basically, over the next 2 years, they would film his tantrums. They would film, which is so personal. Why would you film tantrums, right? Because in and they'll contradict themselves, right? Because they said in another video, they were like, oh, we would never exploit our kids, and we would never like benefit off of things that happen that are like bad, and we don't want to embarrass them or whatever. But like, why are you like filming your child's breakdowns, right? And also, this child already had like abandonment and separation issues because, well, I mean, he's on the autism spectrum, but also any kid that was abandoned when they could remember is harsh. Like, it's tough. And so, yeah. So then, 2019, something like that, 2020? No, it was 2019. This woman comes out. She says, oh, well, you haven't seen the kid in like a couple months in the videos in a couple months. That's because we rehomed him. Okay, so you rehomed your child like you rehome a puppy? Like, I mean, that's a human being. And the kid already had separation issues. So, and then it was like, everyone was like, oh, well, you benefited off of the fact that you adopted this child from China who had special needs, who you requested for a child with special needs. And she literally said, oh, well, it turned out it was like too much work for us. And I was like, okay, so why did you ask for somebody with special needs? And there was like a video that resurfaced with her talking to the doctor. The doctor was like, well, you have to be ready. This is a very, this child will need a lot of work. You'll need to be very attentive to help him. And she was like, oh, I don't even care. Like, I'm just so ready to take care of our child, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, that aged super well for you, like, first of all. And people are thinking, well, I guess she milked the cow for as long as she could, like, it sounds horrible to say, but, like, resist it. She could, for as long as she could resist the repulsion of her child or whatever. And so now the kid is with a new family. But, like, oh my gosh. How could you just do that to that kid, right? If you couldn't handle it, if you weren't equipped, just don't do it. And it wasn't just, like, after a couple months, right? I feel like that's almost understandable, where, like, you were, like, trying to raise this child, but you realized that you weren't able to, and you didn't profit off of the fact that you adopted this child, right? That I could almost understand, because sometimes things just don't work out the way you thought they would, and maybe you thought you, like, overestimated. But clearly, they kept the child in their house for as long as they could make money off of him, which I guess they could have made money off him for longer, but, whatever. And she comes out with this apology video with her husband. Obviously, like, I was so dumb, because they're wearing white in the video, which is obviously, like, you're trying to show that you're, like, innocent or whatever by wearing white and having a bright background or whatever. And that's an obvious way to manipulate the audience. And the fake crying in the video, oh my gosh. Like, it's so dramatic. And I cannot... Like, you want people to pity you when you're the one that threw a child out of your home after years of filming him. And you're probably inflicting trauma on him by giving him more issues of, like, family and, like, connection and trust. All of these things. And you want us to feel sorry for you? Like, I'm sorry. No. That's just not acceptable. And again, they call themselves Christians because they adopted a kid. Like, okay, a bunch of people adopt kids. And they keep them. That's, like, the important part, that they keep their children. They raise their children. They don't just run away. So, yeah, that's my little spiel on, like, family channels. and now I just have to do a little thing. This is a very small topic. Well, it is a big topic, but I don't know that much on it, so I'm gonna speak a little bit on it. So, dating age gaps. I think in general, like the older you get, the bigger the age gap could be, and it's fine. Like I'm pretty sure the queen has a best friend. Her best friend is her cousin, who is like 15 years younger than her. But since she's like 90 something and her cousin is 80 something, it's like whatever, you know? So the age gap is whatever. And although there is kind of an issue with like the queen and Prince Philip, because they met when she was 13 and he was 18, which is okay. And that's my question. Like, do you guys think that that's appropriate? I don't think that's appropriate to like date or marry somebody that you knew before. Like if you, how do I say this? If you were a child and they were an adult when you first met, I think that's wrong. Like, and then suddenly, like when you're 18, you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna start dating. I'm just like questionable. But if you met, for example, if you're 27 and you meet this person who's 37 when you're 27, but you've never met them before, I think that's fine. If that makes sense. Like, if you knew each other before when you were a child, that's wrong. Because I feel like, why would you be attracted to a child, you know? And now that I'm adult, like, you suddenly want to date them? Okay. It's giving me sus vibes. So then, what I mean by that is, Liz Gillies has married a 40-year-old man in 2020, actually. And why I say that's weird, because they knew each other when she was still underage. And that's really weird, very creepy, according to me. But, I mean, I guess she's happy. That's all I have to say. I just make onomatopoeia sounds. So, yeah, I think it's weird. It's like that, what's his name? Something Allen, maybe? Woody? No, it's not Woody Allen. It's Starry? I can't remember his name. Anyways, this pedophile who basically, what happened was that he married this woman who had a child, and then she adopted a child. So basically, they rose this kid together. When she was 3, they adopted this kid when she was like 3. And then later, he gets divorced from this first wife, right? Well, second, I think, actually. But the wife that we talked about. And then he gets married to the kid that he raised after he got married to this woman, because she adopted this kid. I mean, that's really complicated, but like, basically, he married his daughter. And that's just, oh my gosh. I mean, a lot of people, most people say that that's wrong. But I think that it's kind of similar to the fact that, like, you know, you knew this person when they were way too young for you, and then now that you're an adult, suddenly you're into them. I mean, I get that people change, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of weird. Just my opinion, though. Just my opinion. So, yeah. I guess I have more stuff to talk about next time. Whatever. Bye.